All right, Joel Gausten here from joelgausten.com. For this next interview, I'm happy to be joined by someone who's got a very rich history in music, including playing in one of my all-time favorite bands, which we'll definitely get to in this conversation. Joining me from the great state of California, Mr. Jason Shapiro. Jason, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem, man. I'm looking forward to this one big time.
Right
And
on.
I guess we should start by thanking our mutual friend, the great Larry Kelly, for hooking us up for this. So thank you very much, Larry. Hope all's
Hey,
well.
Larry. It's been a while. Haven't seen him in years.
Yeah, he's doing well. He's one of my favorite people. He's,
Yeah.
definitely up there for sure. And I know he'll be watching this, so shout out to Larry. Yeah, but you've got a lot of history, my friend. Spans decades, spans some very interesting bands. I'm talking to you right now from New Hampshire, so I'm currently based in New England. And from what I understand, you got your start out in Boston. Are you originally from Massachusetts?
Yeah, I grew up in Boston.
Cool. Now, when did the music bug sort of bite you, and when did you first get interested in playing music to begin with?
God, I was like 11 or 12. Um, I mean, I was into like cheesy AM radio stuff at that point, and then my brother and my neighbor, they had a band together. They kind of introduced me to all the punk rock coming over from England at the time. um, late 70s. And that totally changed me. That was like my holy grail right there. Um, and I picked up a Sears guitar right away and just got into it and started bands and haven't really stopped since.
Cool. So was Vitamin really the first band that was out there doing shows and recording and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, and that band was more of a kind of noisy, no wave kind of deal. I just picked up guitar and I was like, I can't really play that well. And we kind of hooked up in this scene in Boston. There was a place called 38 Thayer Street. Um, there was lots of crazy arty kind of shows, and we kind of got swooped up in that scene. Um, so that was my um, first band. We weren't really punk rock. We were like no wave.
So that would have been 79-ish.
Yes, 79-ish. Yeah.
Cool. And I wasn't around then, obviously. I was born in 77, but from what I understand from Boston alternative music history, we'll call it, that era was kind of like the rich, the real kids.
Yeah.
You had the Nervous Eaters. Willie Alexander was around because he's always been around, bless him.
Yeah.
And you're kind of doing this no wave stuff. I mean, how did that go over back in those days? Because this was pretty hardcore. I mean, this was still pretty much a rock and roll scene at the time. So how did Vibe
Yeah.
sort of go over in those days?
Um, there was kind of a happening scene that spilled over from New York into in Boston. Um, but we also played beside like like the arty bands of that era, like Christmas, Salem 66. We're a part of that scene too. But we were a little more noisy. Um, so um, we kind of played in both both those scenes. And then hardcore came along, which was totally different. And um, my dad had a loft um, in that wherever the East Street Gallery was, where all those hardcore shows were centered. He lived upstairs, and
Hmm.
I was downstairs one day, and I was like, "Oh, there's a show, concert." And I walked in there and there's like all these like skinhead kids just pile, piling on top of each other. And it was new and exciting. Um, it was it was more one dimensional, but it was fun. And I met a lot of cool people who are still my friends now. But I, um, I was never really hardcore. We're always on the outside, as well as bands like Kill Slug, and you know, we're always the misfits of even like all the scenes there.
Right.
That's why I became friendly with them.
Misfits amongst the misfits, right?
Yeah, we were the real outcast of even that all those groups.
Well, I know at one point Vitamin makes a connection with Roger from Mission of Burma.
Yeah, he started coming to our shows and we're mutual fans, and he ended up producing like our first record, which didn't actually come out till about four 4 years ago or something. Um, and that was Vitamin version one, when we still had a violin player, and I was really young. I was like 13 or something, and so that got put out on a record. That was kind of more the cutesy kid Vitamin. And once the violin player left, we recorded a whole other um, album, which I have. It hasn't been released yet. It's a little more manic and stripped down. So I hope to put that out at some point.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So I guess it was around 83 when Vitamin kind of ran its course as a band, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was kind of as great as the Boston music scene was. I really wanted to go to California. Um, like bands like Black Flag and Flipper were like a huge influence at the time, and it was just pulling me. So me and the bass player ended up moving to San Francisco. My girlfriend at the time in Boston, she was she used to date Will Shatter from Flipper. So we went to Will Shatter's house and stayed there for a couple weeks, and then we branched off, and we never really got a drummer and never got it together. So we ended up coming back to Boston. Um, but I was still determined to get out west, and eventually I did.
Once you were in California, was Verbal Abuse the next band that you were a part of?
Yes. I, uh, that happened through my dad lived in New Mexico in Santa Fe, and we used to like spend summers there. And I ended up meeting Josh, the bass player from DRI.
Mhm.
We were like at a skate park or something. Um, and he became a friend, and he hooked me up with Verbal Abuse. So I ended up just moving in to their little storefront, and I played with them for a couple years, and that was pretty exciting, crazy, lots of drinking.
Now, you play on the album Verbal Abuse Rocks Your Liver, correct?
I'm I believe I'm only on one song. I was kind of exiting at that point. Um, I played on Metal Melissa,
Mhm.
which I wrote the music to, but didn't get any credit, but I don't care. um, yeah, so yeah, I was on my way out pretty much at that point. So, but they brought me in for that one song because I kind of wrote the music.
What led to that departure? Were you already kind of involved with what became Celebrity Skin or what already was Celebrity Skin at that point?
Um, it's a weird story. I was I was dating this girl at the time. I was in verbal abuse. She was from LA but had moved there, and unbeknownst to me, she was kind of still dating the guitar player from Celebrity Skin. And she was like, "Oh, my friend's band is coming through town." I'm like, "Okay, I'll help them out. I'll roadie and stuff." So um, I pretty much figured out that she was dating Bob from Celebrity Skin. Um, so I ended up really clicking with those guys, and they wanted me to join their band. Um, so they moved to San Francisco, and I ended up joining them. And I kind of just slipped out of her house, and he moved right back in. And it's something we didn't talk about for years, but to this day, like he's one of my best friends. Uh, so we finally talked about it at some point, but it was all good, you know. So yeah, I ended up joining them, and they lived there for a bit, and then we ended up going back to LA. So that's yeah,
And Celebrity Skin, great band, very interesting assortment of people.
yeah,
Gary Jacoby on vocals, formerly the drummer for Twisted Roots, uh,
yes,
and on drums for most of the duration of Celebrity Skin, Don Bowles from
yeah,
Worms and 45 Grave. Um, Colorful people waking up in the morning. But you guys were very colorful visually too. I mean, I
yeah,
can't think of another band that had quite the look that Celebrity Skin had.
yeah. We were definitely over the top visually. We just happened to be in LA around the time of the hair metal scene, which we were not part of, but we played some of those shows, um, as that's what all the bands were around then. But we were definitely not a hair metal glam band. We
Mm.
were way more artsy and out there. And
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what always struck me about Celebrity Skin is I can see you guys doing exactly that, playing with the more traditional hair metal bands, but
yeah,
you kind of like a hair metal band from Mars. Like
yeah,
it was just it was a little bit too arty and
yeah,
for
we were out there.
yeah, totally. And speaking of out there, uh, there were a couple of records by Celebrity Skin, including the first EP,
Yeah.
uh, featuring, in my opinion, the world's greatest ABBA cover ever of SOS. And the out there part of it is that video, which is a classic, in my opinion.
Uh,
And all of your videos were. The Monster video is great. Hello, it's all fantastic. What are some recollections you have of filming those videos? Because they are still so striking even now.
let me think. The Hello video, I think it was done at the Ivar Theater or something in Hollywood. Um, we just invited a bunch of our friends to come in and be in it. Uh, I think the SOS video was done on a rooftop, maybe with our friend Richie Louderback from he was like our art student. He also drew the cover of Good Clean Fun.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, to me, I don't quite remember all the details of those videos. Um, yeah.
Well, when I post this video, I'm definitely going to put links up in the video description so people who haven't seen them can check them out because it's particularly by late 88 standards, they're really something,
Oh, cool.
particularly the way Don Bowles looks in the monster video. It's like, come on, Don.
Is that, or is he wearing like a Marie Antoinette wig or,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Classic Bowles through and through.
funny, yeah.
So the EP was followed by the album Good Clean Fun, which I believe Geza X produced with you guys.
Correct.
At that point in time, you were on Triple X. I just had Bruce Duff on a couple weeks ago. Um, and being an East Coast kid, I really sort of glued myself to Triple X Records at the time. I was still in grade school going into high school, but I was gobbling up anything with the Triple X logo on it. So that's how I learned about Celebrity Skin. So those records did make it all the way out to the East Coast where I was
Oh,
living at.
good.
And again, you guys are building a reputation. I do know at some point, uh, Celebrity Skin tours with Psychic TV,
Yeah,
and I had my own experiences with Genesis.
yeah,
So I know it's an interesting time, or was an interesting time to be around Jen.
yeah.
Um, what was the experience like for you touring with that incarnation of Psychic TV?
Um, th they were really nice. Nothing really, I didn't experience anything really freaky. He even brought his kids,
Hmm.
um, and his wife. What was her name?
Paula
It's,
at that time, right?
what was it?
Paula?
Yeah, I think. And yeah, and I believe they had their kids along. All the stories you've heard of them. I didn't see any weirdness, but it was definitely a weird bill.
Yeah.
I I I think it was set up all through Don Bowles, who was close with Jen.
Yeah.
And I actually saw Jen on a Red Cross tour in New York. She was sitting in the front, all blonde and like into it. And someone told me that was Jen. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, and I think she passed away like little after that.
Yeah. Um, Deeply fascinating uh person, Jen.
Yeah, you
I
probably know more about him than I do.
Yeah, just colorful, smart,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
very, very sharp.
yeah.
But yeah, I wish I was old enough to have seen that tour because I can only imagine what the combination of Celebrity Skin and Psychic TV must have been like live together
Right.
at that time.
Somehow it went over well. I don't remember ever getting booed or anything, but you would think that would happen because they have such a hardcore like followers.
Yeah, yeah.
But it
Well,
worked.
that's great. That's great. Um, Despite the things that were going on with Celebrity Skin, the band eventually called it quits around 91,
Yes.
after the full-length album came out. What led to Celebrity Skin sort of hitting the pause button for many years at that point?
Well, the singer ended up quitting. Um, I don't think any of us really know exactly why. Um, and we didn't want to. It was such a unique band with unique members. Um, I would almost go as far as saying like if one of the guitar players or drummer, I mean, any of the band quit, it would never be the same if somebody left. But especially if the singer leaves, we're like, okay, we can't really continue on.
Hmm. Well, I do know Celebrity Skin has come back for reunion shows a couple of times. I lived in LA until 2006, and I remember seeing Celebrity Skin. I think it was at the Roxy
Yeah,
in 2005. That was the night that Roddy from Faith No More came up on stage.
yeah,
Had that show been the first time you had played since
I
90?
believe so. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
And that was hard enough to get together. Couple of the members are will never make up, there's a quarrel. So I've given up on trying to do reunions. Um, we got one other one in, which was a little after that. We played uh, like the LA Weekly Fest downtown. I forget what it was called, but that was our next reunion. Um, we were offered a reunion opening for Faith No More about 5 years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but we're almost going to do it, and then the two like got into it over something, and that didn't happen. So, oh
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, unfortunately, it happens in many situations with many bands, it just doesn't.
I know, but we're beyond adults, so I don't see how that even makes sense, but it's okay. It's out of my hands. I've tried.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
I know Don's still around doing various Don things.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
and you're keeping busy. What are the other guys in Celebrity Skin doing? Is there any music coming out from the other
Uh,
guys?
I don't believe Tim, the bass player, I don't think he's doing anything. He had a really good run with the Cramps. He played bass for the Cramps for a bit,
Hmm.
and he was really good with them. But that blew up. Um, Bob, the guitar player, he's not really doing any music right now, but he's an amazing songwriter. He should. Gary, the singer, he does like he'll record holiday songs and put them on YouTube. Um, and he'll play the odd acoustic show here and there, but he lives in San Diego. I don't think he's too musically active.
Hmm.
I mean, I haven't played a show since the pandemic, so I'm a little out of haven't played in a while either. So, but I'm ready.
Oh yeah, I bet. I bet. Well, I'm really happy to have seen the 2005 reunion at the Roxy because it was such a fun show, man.
Oh, good.
You know, to have grown up listening to those records and them crossing
Uh,
paths with Don and then seeing Don with you guys and Roddy showing up. I think Roddy was wearing butler's chaps, if I recall.
yeah, he was all leathered out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was just fantastic. The whole gig was just perfect, man. I'm like, this
Yeah,
is totally what I was hoping to catch when I moved to LA.
yeah.
So,
I believe Pat Smear came up for a song too. Pretty sure.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of that time blurs. I know the Germs, that's when the Germs came back too, was
Uh,
2005, with Shane singing. So I saw
nothing.
the Germs that year too. There's a lot of Don in my life when I lived in LA.
Yeah. It's kind of unavoidable
Yes.
if
Yes.
you're in the music scene.
Yeah. You moved to LA, like here's your apartment, here's Don Bowles. Congratulations, you've arrived.
Yeah.
So Celebrity Skin, for the typical reasons, kind of ceases to be.
Yeah.
What came next for you musically, as the 90s moved on?
I was doing like solo bands for a while. I had a band with my baby mama called Three Way, and we were kicking around for about 10 years. Uh, it was always like a three-piece, and then we became a five-piece. Um, I recorded a couple records, but never really put them out. So I was just doing that and just staying out of trouble.
Hmm. Cool, cool. Yeah, maybe some of that stuff will come out someday. What do you think?
Yeah, I've got it. I've got like two records worth.
Cool,
It's good.
cool. Fast forwarding a bit to more present times. And I was really happy that when I heard this had happened because Red Cross is one of my favorite bands since I was a kid. You know, I think Third Eye is one of the greatest, most perfect rock albums ever conceived.
Mm,
Uh, you know, the brothers are tremendous songwriters, as you surely know.
yeah.
But you joined Red Cross on guitar. Was it 2018 around there?
Well, I think 2012,
Really? That okay.
possibly 2011.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, Steve, I always wanted to join Red Cross anyway, uh, because I love them so much. They're great. Um, yeah, Steve contacted me, and they had just put out a new record, and uh, um, Robert Hecker had left the band, and they had some tours coming up in Australia. And Steve was like, "Can you do these shows?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." So I didn't really know what was going to happen after that. Um, but it just kind of stuck, and more shows got booked, and I've been playing with them ever since, even though we haven't played in 4 years, but we got some shows coming up.
Great, great.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
And a
Um,
record.
oh, really? Cool.
Oh yeah. We just recorded a record. It might be the best Red Cross record ever, but
Wow.
let you decide.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the last one, the one you played on Beyond the Door, I mean, it's one of the best Red Cross albums ever. I think it's the best one since Third Eye.
Oh wow, cool.
I love that record. It's got, you know, where like Third Eye had like a 70s vibe.
Uh,
To my ears, Beyond the Door has like a 60s thing happening for sure.
this next one will be even more 60s to you.
Great.
Parts of it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't known you were with them for that long because I when that record came out, Beyond the Doors, when I realized you were in the band, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. Um, and the new record is that with Dale Crover again on drums?
He had a back operation, so he was recovering, and we're under a time crunch to get this record out
Mhm.
because Steve has a year off from the Melvins, kind of a year off, and we wanted to get in this record and some touring. So I believe it was just a time crunch to get it get it out. And the guy whose studio we recorded it at, Josh Klinghoffer, who's like session guy. He was in the Chili Peppers for 10 years, and he
Right.
played in Jane's Addiction and Pearl Jam, all those big bands, PJ Harvey. It was his studio, and he's like a multi-instrumentalist. He plays drums. He ended up playing drums on the record,
Oh,
and he
wow.
plays the keyboards and guitar. And he's good buddies with Steve, and the opportunity was there to go record at his home studio with like every vintage piece of equipment imaginable, and I don't know, it was fun. It came out really good.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to hear it. Any idea of a release date at this point?
I don't even know. I'm gonna guess in the next 2 months or something.
Excellent.
But Dale will be joining us back for touring. I believe he's all healed up.
Great, great. Well, with a bit of luck, you guys will come out to the East Coast. Yeah,
I hope so.
yeah, yeah. I mean, as I said, I mean, the songwriting in that band, even when they were more of like a punk band, like
Uh-huh.
the cover band era and Linda Blair and all that, Born Innocent,
Yeah.
I, they were always such sharp songwriters. It was always a slight cut above the fray, you know.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful that, they're still doing it. And if the record you're saying coming out is anything like the last one, man, it's gonna be killer.
Yeah. I don't know how they do it. I was pretty stunned when I heard the demos. I was like, because of the whole pandemic and Steve's busy with the Melvins. I was like, where did they get where did they get the time to write this um really involved 18 song record? It's really good. Yeah, I'm proud of it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really looking forward to it. I love the fact that it's 2024 and there's a new Red Cross album coming out. That just,
Yeah, it's just crazy.
yeah,
They can still do it and it's still good and fresh each time. That's something they have going for them.
yeah. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear that. Like I said, I'm glad to see the band's going to be moving forward with gigs again,
Yeah.
getting out on the road and bringing that material out there. It's really exciting, and I'm definitely stoked, for release day for that record. I'll be first day buyer for sure.
All right.
Totally, totally.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've got a few shows coming up. Like in 2 months, we're playing punk rock bowling at a club show or something. It's not on the main stage.
right.
And then we're doing that Mosswood Meltdown, which used to be the Burgerama thing in Oakland.
Hmm.
That'll be a good show. And then we got a Spain show booked, just a one-off at the Azkena Music Festival. It's in like Basque country. But there's supposedly going to be a US and Europe tour, but hasn't been announced. I haven't heard of any dates yet, but I think it's in the works.
Very cool, very cool. But definitely stuff coming, which is
Yeah.
really exciting to hear.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back on stage.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it.
Right on.
Gonna be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, listen, until the next time we get a chance to connect, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
Really happy to end on the exciting note with Red Cross. Like I said, always up there for me. Big fan. I love that record you were a part of. Great legacy, and from what it sounds like, a great future ahead, man. So that's great news. And wish you all the best, man, with the
All
upcoming
right.
record and
Thanks,
tour and
Joel.
all the other fun stuff. And it's been a nice trip down memory lane. I'm actually going to be dragging in Mr. Wilkins in a couple of weeks for one of these. So
Oh, good. Hi, Scotty.
yes,
I've
yes.
yet to see his new band.
Yeah, I gotta check it out too. Oh, yeah, always does great stuff, Scotty. He and I have a band in common, Electric Frankenstein.
Were you in that band or
Yeah, just not. I
at the
was in
same
the
time or
band.
different?
Yeah, he left and then I came on board. I think the first time I came on board was like maybe 6 months after he moved back west.
Mm.
Um, and then the second time I did it was with the original singer, one of the earlier singers. So, but we connected on Facebook as everybody does now, and um, he's going to be carrying on the verbal abuse conversation when he connects in a couple weeks. So
Yeah, good.
should be a lot of fun. But until we meet again, Jason, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on.
Okay, Joel. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.